came to talk about wheels and tires. So all of us have got wheels and tires. I mean, it's like some of us got a GT, some of us got a Roadster. Some of the Roadsters don't have tops. You know, if I have a top, I'm not going to drive it in the rain. But everybody's got wheels and tires. So the wheels were wire wheels for like ever, right? And then in 1950, the engineers said, well, geez, a disc wheel is stronger and lighter than a wire wheel. So let's switch over to disc wheels. So from the TC to the TD, we had this wholesale move, and all the TDs were made with disc wheels. Well, the population, the purchasing population, went nuts. They said, wait, we want wire wheels. We want that classic look, the shiny look. And besides, what else do you have to do on a weekend except to clean 48 spokes, you know, or 60 spokes if you've got an MGB, or 72 spokes if you've got an MGC. So from 1950 onwards, there were disc wheels available, and from the TF onwards, disc and wire wheels were available. So which one's better? You can make a case, you know, that there's less damage that happens to a disc wheel than a wire wheel. A wire wheel comes loose at the hub on the inside. It gets wobbly out on the outside. You can't adjust the spokes, but you can buy a new wheel. It's easy. You just pull out your charge card and order new wheels, and they come to you. You can't order new disc wheels. And someone gave me the name of someone in New England who straightens disc wheels, but their website was down. So chances are it's not a, you know, like a heavy duty, full running place. That's my guess. I had to have the rims replaced on my disc wheels to get the bend out of them. They drilled the old rims off and put it in. It was Diamond Wheel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I can't say enough about them. So anyway, we got these two wheels. Now the wire wheel necessarily takes a tube, because you've got all those spokes that are connected to the outside. So someplace in the past, someone said, geez, let's take a tube of RTV silicone goo and smear it around the inside of the rim where the spokes come up, and the spokes don't stay tight. They don't stay tight as the car's moving. Those spokes, they shouldn't, but they do sometimes move up and down, and that'll perforate a tube. It'll also help me out. I would think it would perforate the silicone. So you can buy tubeless wire wheels. They're available. It's just a smear of silicone. The problem comes in if there is a leak, oh boy, how are you going to find it? But I have not run into that problem myself. I know people have purchased those. I don't know what they've done. I suppose you smear more silicone on the inside, but it's like trying to find a rain leak on a flat roof. You know, it can be a long way away from where it evidences itself. So you got to buy tubes to go in your tires in your wire wheel, and you want to get the best, thickest tubes you can get. And you got to have somebody install them that knows what they're doing. If you take your wire wheels to Discount Tire, true story, then the young man who's just attended all the training for Discount Tire courteously informs you that it is illegal for them to put tubes in your wheels because they might catch fire while they're running. True story. Anyway, if you want tubes installed in your car, go to a motorcycle shop. They install tubes on wire wheels all day long. They've got the baby powder. They know how to inflate it and deflate it, inflate it and deflate it, inflate it, deflate it, so that the tube finds its home in there and doesn't have a fold. That's the other thing that ruins a tube real fast, is getting a fold in it, and then it's constantly moving and chafing. So disc wheel, hey, it's all straight from there, you know. But the problem is with disc wheels is you can't get them straight. Nobody has a method of chucking the wheel up onto a hub in spinning it and making sure that it's absolutely round and is moving back and forth and so forth. There's only one place I know of, Hendricks Wire Wheel in Greensboro, North Carolina, who's got a machine that they used to be common, but he's the only guy left running one, I guess. They chuck the wire wheel up and he's got a razor, and as the wheel's going by, the razor just catches some of the tread and shaves it until it's absolutely round with the hub. Remember that MGB, MGA, all of our wheels are not center centric. I guess that sounds redundant or crazy, but they're the center of the wheel is the crisscross in the bolt pattern. So the only way to properly balance the wheels is to mount it onto a hub and have that whole assembly balanced. So you can't just go through the center of the wheel and hope that the center of your row style wheel will be in the center. It's not. It's close. It's real close, but it's not exact. So twin cam guys, that would include me because I've got a deluxe, also have a problem in that those wheels have got pins in them, and nobody can balance those. So there are people out there. There's one guy out there right now that's got a tool that he'll sell to you if you get a twin cam or deluxe, and then you can take that and take it to your balancer. I don't know what size mandrel hole, 52 millimeter. I don't know. Mine, the one I've got on mine is 28 millimeter for the mandrel that comes out and spins the wheel. The wheel balancing is very different today than it used to be. They only spin the wheel, it seems like half a dozen times and not very fast. And the machine can tell you how much weight to add and where, and it's supposed to come out all nicely balanced. So those are the two wheels. You can swap. If you've got disc wheels, you can go to wire wheel. And if you got wire wheel, you can go to disc wheel. The problem on an MGB, a later model B, 65, 68 through 80, the Salisbury GT tube type rear end, is that the width of the rear axle, this is true also on the not the T-types, but on the MGAs, the width of the axle is wider on the disc wheels than on the wire wheels. So if you want to switch to wire wheels and you've got an MGA, because you like the look, I mean, who doesn't? Switching the front hubs, that's a slam dunk, that's easy. The rear axle, you got to change the entire rear axle assembly because it's 3/4 inch too wide out on each corner, out on each side, and it'll push the wheels out so they rub the inside of the wheel arch. Later model MGBs, 74 through 80 with a raised ride height, sometimes that's not a problem. You can put wire wheels on those and the wheels will run really close to the wheel arches, but they won't hit it because the back end is up in the air. If you're heavy, sometimes that'll exacerbate the problem. I borrowed a guy's car one time and he looked like he weighed about 115 and I weighed double that. And when I was in the car going around the corner, I could hear the wheel catching the wheel arch. He had some aftermarket wheels on it. So we were successful sometimes in putting wire wheels on later model Bs, but the rear axle is often shifted one side or the other on the MGB. So although you got plenty of room on one side, you don't on the other. And that's from a problem with the leaf springs. Even the factory had a problem with the leaf springs and they'd kick the rear axle one side or the other. Well, in fact, the axle's on the ground, so it's kicking the body one way or the other. But when you're looking at it on the hoist, it looks like the rear axle's in the wrong place. So anyway, that's about as much as I know about wheels. Oh, the center, the spline on a T-type or TC or MGB, the diameter of the spline is 2.450 inches. 2.450. And by the time you get to 2.430, it's rocking quite a lot. And by the time you get to 2.390, the wheel will come off. The wheel will come off the car. So all you need is a set of calipers. I know there's instructions. People say, oh, my teeth are sharp. Oh, they're bent this way. Oh, they're bent this way. They're dull. Hey, just put a caliper on it. And the 2.450 is brand new. And 2.440, okay, all right. 30, we're starting to get worn. 20, well, boy, we're getting real worn. Not only does the hub wear, the male splines, but the inside of the wheel, the inside of the wheel, that where the splines are, that wears also. I've never didn't know how to measure that, didn't have the tools necessary to measure that. So instead, use your finger, and as you press your finger in from the front of the car towards the center of the car through the wheel. Of course, the wheel's off the car, and you're feeling the splines. You're feeling this area that's worn, and suddenly you hit a ridge. You hit a ridge where the splines are not worn. Now, how much is that ridge? A lot, a little. No matter who's feeling it, you're not going to be able to describe this to somebody else. But if you got 5 wheels and you feel all 5 of them, some are pretty worn and some aren't. And so just from that, you'll know which wheels are giving you a clunk as they come loose. Let me talk about tires just for a minute. I don't know very much about tires at all. It's the world of tires has grown up since I got into the MG trade back in the day. They were bias plies or 550 15s on the T-types and MGAs, 550 15s, fractional sized bias ply tires. Thank goodness for Volkswagen. They used 560 15s. So we always had tires available from the Beetle. But then comes the more modern tire. And why would you go back to bias ply when you can have radial? Because you like the look. Okay, all right. So you buy bias ply, but you can't go out and drive it quite as aggressively and have as much fun. But the radials are bigger. The radials are a lot bigger. About the smallest radial I remember ever finding is like a 155 14 or 155 15. That the 15 is that's the diameter of the tire. So that's the inside diameter. So MGAs and T-types are all 15-inch, MGCs 15-inch, MGBs 14-inch, and midgets 13-inch. So as I showed, you can put bigger wheels on an MGB. You can put 16 inches on there, but then the tires have got a profile about like that, and they're about that wide. It just, let me tell you, it does not steer. Does not like to steer. Looks cool maybe, but no, not fun to drive. So there used to be all these different tires, Pirellis and Semperets and Michelin, the Michelin XZX. Oh my gosh, that was the go-to tire. That was the gold standard. Now it's all changed up again. And the most recent tires that I'm familiar with are Vredestein, VRED, Vredestein, sold by Coker and Universal Tire. But there's a lot of other ones out there too. Some people say, oh yeah, I just went down to the tire store and the guy found me these tires and they're great. So you want to keep the narrowest that you can. MGBs came with 165s, but we used to see them come in the shop with like 215s. Oh my gosh, you couldn't steer it. Great big wide things. And the heavier the wheels are, the harder it is for the car to accelerate. It's unsprung weight and it's rotating, and you've got to accelerate all that mass. So if you want to make your car accelerate quickly, you don't have heavy wheels. That's just you're just wasting energy trying to spin the wheels up. So you want the narrowest tires you can, and There are date codes on the tires now. What else can I say? Used to be, regular tires and snow tires. Apparently there's not that dramatic difference anymore, or at least around these parts in Michigan, and it snows here a lot. I think what they said, we got 20 feet of snow this season. So anyway, that's it. Now what I want to do is open this up, and I know some people have something to say about wheels and tires, maybe about taking the knockoffs off. Since I forgot to mention anything about that, remember that your lead hammer is the sacrificial hammer. So when you beat on the ears of your nice your nice spinners, it's the hammer that fails, not the spinner. I use a dead blow. I've got a plastic dead blow. There are wooden devices that go onto the spinner. You can hit those, and then the wood hits the spinner. There's the Clark's big long wrench. It's got my signature on it, and those are handy, but they do make marks. They make a heavy mark in the spinner. So no matter what you try to do, except for those wooden ones and a hammer, and then depending on the car, when you back up the hammer to hit the wheel again, you can end up hitting the fender. So it just comes with the territory. Anyway, that's enough. It's a 7.
John,
yeah.
Should you? I've been watching the videos on YouTube, and they say you should raise the car up to knock the knockoffs off. Don't do it on the ground. Is that true? You should hammer on the knockoffs on the ground. I mean, I've been doing it for years.
Let somebody explain it. We used to in the shop. It was faster because you hit one ear, spin it, hit the next ear, and hit them round, around and off. It made it easier to have it up off the ground. There's going to be some tension on the wheel, no matter how you park the car. There's some kind of tension at that hub. And if you take the tension off, it might come off more easily. I don't know. I'd have to have somebody explain to me.
It might give you more room.
The reason I heard was that it took the tension off the spokes. That if you hit the knockoff with it on the ground, the tension was transmitted to the spokes, and then it would put some stress on them.
Well, it sure would put some stress on them, but there's a lot of spokes. I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. That's the first thing I've heard this. Like, okay, that I hadn't thought of before.
After 30 years, I don't know.
I'm sorry. Let's see. Tony, are you still up?
Yeah, I said after 30 years, that's something new.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. All right. Who's up next?
This is Judd.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to have to take the wire wheels off my MGB. And on my old TR4, I knocked them off with a lead hammer and knocked them back on until I couldn't hit it any harder. How hard do you hit it when you're putting it back on? I mean, there's no torque wrench you can use.
No, that's about right. You keep hitting it until it quits moving. And, I might hit it once it, you can keep moving it. Keep hitting it harder and harder and harder. You can incrementally move it, but it doesn't do any good because it settles back in after a while. Hit it until it's here, and then until it's, you think, man, that's tight, and then hit it a couple more times. Sounds like what you're doing is okay. They've never come off. That's one test. They'll come off anyway. They tighten as they run down the run down the road. That's why the record services used to call us at least once a season for a spinner, because they were hauling a car backwards with wire wheels, and the spinners they come off. That's what happens. You might be able to find the wheel, but you'll never find the spinner.
So really, if you get it firm, driving it's going to get it up to tight.
Yeah, it takes care of itself. So get it tight.
Oh.
Get it tight, but that's, yeah.
I have one thought, and that is after you drive it a little bit, retighten them, because sometimes driving them will loosen off a little bit.
Okay, Sure, it does. I mean, it doesn't hurt, you know, but I'd be surprised if anybody here on the board tonight, we got 174 people on right now. I would be surprised if anyone here has ever lost a wire wheel off their car. It's really rare.
Just make sure that you get your axles on the right sides.
Okay, all right. Oh, there's a guy, right when I moved to Grand Rapids, there was a guy who had a Morgan and he restored the whole thing. It was great, except the rear wheel, the spinners kept coming, you know, and he'd have to stop and find the spinner and put it back on. So finally he drilled a hole in the end of the spinner and safety wired the spinner to a spoke.
John,
Yes, that's from getting them on the wrong side.
I lost the front wheel off of my TR250 going down and on off ramp once.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Watched it roll down the off ramp. Found the spinner.
Okay. All right. Well, you are my heretofore. You are my exception then. So,
I've got an exception too.
Okay.
I lost the front wheel off of my 76 MGB. It wasn't because the spinner came loose on its own. It's because the splines stripped. So when I stepped on the brakes to turn into the parking lot, it locked up the hub. I heard this horrible grinding noise, which were the splines going around, and it just walked the nut right off the end.
Yeah,
It rolled across the road, and as I turned into the parking lot, it came off.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yep. So that's one of those that's down to like 2.4
Yeah.
450 4390. Yeah, that's really.
I was having cold sweats when you were talking about those numbers with the memories coming back. That was a long time ago, but still.
Yeah.
Hey, John, let me
Yeah.
ask you a question about pressure in the tires. Do you think that the pressure in the front tires should be higher or lower than the back, or both the same?
I've always done 30 in the front and 32 in the back.
So
That's
the back, no matter what you're putting in the front, the back should be higher than the front.
If you even read the workshop manual, I think that information's there. It's about 2 pounds higher in the back.
Yeah, but they're always dealing with this, with the bias ply tires from the old days, you know, but yes, you're right.
That's one of the reasons that when you read the workshop manual and it says, you know, air up the front tires to 22 pounds and the rear to 24, and you go 22, even with bias plies, it feels like you're driving in an earthquake, you know, so.
The sticker on my glove box says, you know, for radial tires on my 72B, the sticker on the inside of the glove box, and it does show, I can't remember the numbers. It's like 27 and 30 or 27 and 31, something like that. So even with the radials, it's still higher in the back.
Yeah, we had a Michelin engineer come to our club and he used my TD as an example. I've got Redsteins on it. And he said, like 26 and 28. And I said, when I only have 26 and 28, it looks like I've got 4 flat tires and the car drives like I'm driving on marshmallows. So I run 30 and 31 and it does real fine and the tires seem to wear appropriately. So I think it's whatever is comfortable for your driving style. If you really overinflate, you wear the center out. And if you really underinflate, you wear the sides out. But just put it in whatever seems to perform best for you is what he really kind of came down to. But his recommendations, that he was a high-level Michelin engineer, were much lower than any of us run our tires.
In most cases, you're gonna have new tires before you wear your old tires out.
As a rule.
That's
unless your alignment is as bad as it was on my MGA, and then you can wear them out quicker.
Hey, John, could you talk about spline lubrication a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a fan of using anti-seize in about 8 places on the car. I don't use it for everything because it creeps. I mean, if you use anti-seize, the silver colored anti-seize, you use it out in your garage, 2 weeks later, in the lunchroom at work, someone's going to find some of that smeared on the door of the microwave. It just creeps. It goes everywhere. But in a couple locations, there's no substitute for it. The other ones are the bottom bolt in the front, top and bottom bolts, I guess, in the front suspension on an MGB or MGA, and in the front bolts for the eyes that go through the leaf springs. Those, I mean, I just talked to a guy yesterday who's trying to get his leaf springs off a TD. Has never been off before. It's like rusted, just rusted solid. Anyway, anti-seize on the splines, and if you just put some around at the outside, I mean the splines are that long, so you put them on the outside, and then when you push the wheel, and it'll push it through. I wouldn't use a tablespoon of it and wipe it all on, because it's going to get pushed out. It's going to fling out and get on everything. One nice kind of thing about silver anti-seize is that when it comes out and hits the silver, comes out through the spokes and gets on the wheel, it isn't quite as yucky as red grease or black grease or something that you'd use there. That was a long answer. I hope I answered your question.
So John, talking about that, do you put some silicone on those outer spokes on the end of the hub so the grease doesn't come out the spokes?
No, I'm afraid of trapping moisture. So no, I like to have everything well ventilated.
But with the anti-seize, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Water gets everywhere. I went through a range. Carolyn and I drove my MGA, my deluxe, from Grand Rapids to Grapevine, Texas, and what, 2000? When was that? 2001, 2000? I don't remember. Long time ago. And we drove all the way down to Grapevine, Texas. I lost my train of thought. You got me going here, Fred.
Talking about trapping water in the hub.
And we hit this massive rainstorm around Little Rock, Arkansas, or something or other. I mean, cars were all off the road. We just kept going. We could see. I don't know why. Everybody else was off the road. It was just brutal. And like 6 months later, I'm driving my car and I'm going, what is that noise? And I took my front wheel bearings apart and they were all rusty, even though there's, I mean, well greased, but I had to replace all those tin can bearings up front because water got from where? From then, I guess. It wasn't ever, no other time it was in a flood situation, so I'm real excited about making sure that water can make its escape.
So John, talk about the safety rims and non-safety rims and having tubes in the earlier cars.
I can't with there's some, all I know is it's called a safety rim, and without it, a tubeless tire can come off a rim more easily since it doesn't have a tube in it. But for as many times as I've looked at the wheels, I've never seen it myself. I know it's there. I just couldn't describe it. And I've never heard of anyone running a tubeless tire off an earlier rim either. So, but what do you know about this safety rim, safety lip?
Well, there is a little bead on all of the say raw style wheels, but prior to that, like 67 and earlier, before the raw style wheels, it was a non-safety rim. So you had to run tubes, even if it was a steel rimmed wheel. So if it did become deflated, going around a corner, it wouldn't peel off. That's all I've heard. I've never seen it happen.
That's the same thing I've heard, John. I run without tubes on both my TD and my MGA. And what I understand is that if you lose all of the pressure and you go around a curve, you can peel as Fred just said, you can peel the tire off. Other than that, with normal pressure in the tire, it's not going to come off.
Yeah, that's a pretty specific incident. I mean, incidents. And so what if the tire came off? You're running on a flat anyway.
Well, the
Yeah.
only thing is, if your tire goes down and you can detect it, try not to take a violent turn. If you just got to come to a
Yeah,
straight
okay.
stop, you'll be okay.
I had put tubes in my 51 TD when I replaced the tires. It had tubes in it. And I had read on the forums just both ways. And I thought, well, just to be safe. And the other thing I've read, I don't know if it's accurate on the TDs, was that the earlier TDs, that the rim and the center part of the wheel, they're riveted on rather than welded, and that you could get a leak through the rivets. Don't know if that's true or not. So
I've heard that too.
so I
I've
just,
heard that also, but I don't have
mine's
tubes
early.
in
It's
my
a 50.
DD.
Mine's a real early 51, and so I just went ahead and put tubes in it. Haven't had any issues, but I wondered about whether I need those or not.
They had rivets in them right up to the end of the MGA at least.
Oh, okay.
And it's not an issue.
Okay.
I mean, have I seen that? Have I seen a rivet leak once? Probably. I don't remember it.
I didn't know if they went from riveting them to just welding them on or something. I haven't seen the later ones. So
John, what did you say the correct diameter of the spline is? 2.45?
2.450.
Okay. That's new?
You buy a brand new hub and you put a caliper across it. That's what you'll measure, 2.450.
Okay, thank you.
John, talk about your experience with getting the rims put on your, was it your MG? No, what car was it? The MGB? And assuming they're still in business, how long did it take? Did you just send them the wheels?
So I use this firm called Diamond, like on your ring, a Diamond wheel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I don't know how I found them. I've been looking for somebody to straighten my bent wheels for years. And people, oh, I can do it. And maybe they could clean up the lip, but they couldn't get rid of this, and it was so bad that I broke coil springs up front. Twice I broke coil springs. The shaking was so bad. A couple of years ago, I started on a hunt again, and I found this place. They make wheels. They make wheels for drag cars or something. They got a great big facility and a machine the size of a house with band steel on one side, and out the other side come rims. So anyway, I got the guy's ear, and he said, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." So they drilled out the rivets, holding the rim on the inside of my wheel, and these are unusual wheels. They're the Dunlop wheels used on the Twin Cam and the Deluxe, and they made new rims with a safety lip, and welded those on absolutely straight. And now when you spin the wheel, there's nothing like this. It's absolutely, and I put those on the car, I balance them, and I can drive 90 miles an hour with nary, it is like driving on glass. So I tell you, getting wheels re-rimmed is certainly, assuming you get a good job, et cetera, cost me about $200 a wheel. So it was $1,000 just a couple of years ago, before COVID, before they printed all that money. So it was, I don't know how much it is now. You'd have to talk to them, but I dropped the wheels off myself. They came back to me in beautifully thick cardboard boxes, each wheel. That was, I don't remember if it was $200 a wheel, including the shipping or not, but they'll tell you. But it was really nice. So you got to get them there. Of course, it doesn't matter. You just put a tag on them, I suppose. Doesn't matter how much they get banged up going there. It's how nice they are coming back. I asked him if he could paint my wheels wheel silver, and he had like really, really bright chrome and something else available. And I said, no, neither of those are suitable for me. So I had to paint them when I got them back, or powder coat them. But he just didn't have the facility to to get that color. Maybe things have changed. So the whole process probably took, I don't know, month, maybe. Not bad, not something you want to do in the middle of the summer. Maybe longer, I don't know. I dropped them off and I got the tour of the plant and then he sent them back to me. It was a wonderful experience. And the wheels are great.
Those Dunlop wheels, the center part of the wheel, I thought it was an alloy. Is it a steel wheel?
It's a steel wheel, just like an MGA wheel, except instead of having holes, you know, and to take a lug nut, they got pins. That's all.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
There's a place near me, a friend of mine had his Porsche wheels repainted there, but they say they do wheel straightening as well, both for alloy wheels and steel rims. I haven't been up there yet. It's only like 5 miles from my house, but I want to try them out and see. There was a place where I had my MGA steel wheels straightened in Natick, Mass, but that place is no longer there. So I'm going to try this other place and see if they can straighten steel wheels and see what the price is. When I did my wire wheels, my steel wheels, they're $85 a piece to straighten them. But that was, 25 years ago. So I don't know what's going on today, but I'm going to try this other place and see if they can straighten the old MGA wheels.
John?
Yes.
I've got kind of a rookie question here. I've got a 1980 MGB, and there's the dog is barking.
It's all right.
Talk amongst yourselves.
No, I don't hear, but well, all right, okay. All right. There we go. Okay. Funny.
Yeah, I've got 1980 MGB, and I bought it as a novice, my first one ever, and it came with 15-inch wire wheels, and I put new tires on it. The old ones were 30 years old, and I think it's 185/65 15s, which gave it kind of a nice look. They're a little bit squared off as opposed to the rounded skinny tires. But they're not real fat or anything. Might be 165/65s, but with tubes, and they had they had some deteriorated rubber straps on the inside to protect the tubes. But the local tire guy, I'm in a small town, and it's nice being in a small town. He took those. The rubber straps off because they were shot, and he just put a couple layers of duct tape, and they've been working great. Balance is pretty good, except for like right in 50-55. But beyond that, it's great to all sorts of speeds. But I've got bad splines, and I know, and they're just, I haven't measured them, but they're sharp as hell. I mean, they're really sharp. You can feel they're supposed to be trapezoidal, flat on the top, and I can hear the clunk. And so I'm looking to see what kind of advice you should give me on this. I don't have to stay with wire. I probably don't have to stay with 15s. I like the stance. I put the so-called lowered springs. I replaced all the springs, put the so-called lowered springs on it from the 1980 version, but it didn't really do much to lower it. But I don't get down low as well as I used to. And so I like the kind of higher stance that I've got compared to my neighbor who's got one that's like this far off the ground. But it handles good, it drives good. I like everything about it. But my thought is, okay, new 15-inch wire wheels, because I've already invested money in 15-inch tires, probably not a lot of money, but I've invested that. Or do I have to go, and then I have to get new splines, I forget how the rear axle is constructed. I know the front, I can just get new hubs. Don't remember about the rear axle. Or do I go with the steel with lug nuts and get new hubs? And now you're telling me I've got to get a whole new rear axle?
If you want to switch over to disc wheels, but you don't.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. Actually, changing the rear hubs is easier than changing the front hubs on an
Okay.
on an MGB. So you can buy new hubs and you can buy new wheels.
Okay.
You can buy 4 at a time. Silly to buy 5. Some people do, but it's like, spare.
I'm not too
So
worried about that.
if you buy wheels and tires and have it all switched over, you'll chew through $2,000, $2,500 maybe not quite that much, but having the shop do it. So it's like, oh my gosh, because if you change the wheel without the spline and the spline without the wheel, then the worn part is gonna accelerate the wear on the unworn part. So how much mileage do you get on it? Is it an issue? Here's a neat little trick you can do. You can either take it someplace, your friendly shop, and say, hey, I want to do this on your hoist. Makes it easier. And get the car up in the air, have somebody sit inside, put their foot on the brake so the brake drums do not move, and then grab each wheel and rotate it. And I don't know, you want to get excited, you get a protractor, you get a tape measure on the outside of the wheel. And then you don't know why one moves more than another. Well, you know that it's worn, but you don't know if it's the hub or it's the wheel. Hub might be real nice and the wheel might be real bad. And that's why it's moving somewhat. You just don't know. And you can also measure that diameter of those splines, 2.450. And so
I wrote that down. Yeah.
all that information, then I don't know, put it on a legal pad and open up the Moss Motors catalog or Abingdon Spares or somebody and just say what am I crazy? How many more miles am I going to get on the car? Is it an issue? So anyway, so good luck with that.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about what Eric said about losing one.
Oh yeah, that's very, very well. 2 people tonight, and one of them was a Triumph. So yeah, I mean, it just doesn't happen much. So
Yeah, I lost one that way though.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, that was a 70 BGT, and same kind of a thing. Worn splines, hit the brakes.
Yeah.
Front wheel, it threw off the octagonal spinner, and the wheel passed me going down the road. And I dug in on the brake rotor.
I do have brake backing plates that have quite a section of them sheared off from running on the ground, but that could be because the hub came off or lots of different reasons. So yeah, it's still a pretty unusual thing to have happen. So and you can find the wear simply by measuring it. So
hey John, Don Bartley here.
Yes, sir.
If I understand you right, I thought you said that the hubs that came with the wire wheels was narrower than the one that came with the steel wheels. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because
it's not the hub, it's the whole rear end.
The whole rear axle is wider. So nobody puts disc wheels on a wire wheel car. If anything, if you're going to change, you're going to go from disc to wire wheels because it's neater. And in the MGB, you take the one hub off and you put the other hub on and put the wire wheel on, and it doesn't fit. But
you can take the wire wheel. You say nobody does that, but we do take off the wire wheels and run disc wheels, don't they? I mean,
I did on mine after I had the wire wheel problem, and then I started having some issues with another wire wheel, and I said I'm done with this, and I just put the road style wheels on and changed the hubs, and I thought everything was fine. But then one time when I took the tire off, I could see just on the inside of the fender, you know, up against the body of the car, you could see where it was worn. I think it cleared okay normally driving down the road, but I would imagine going around corners when it leans, you could see it was shiny where the tire had been rubbing it. And of course, once I knew that it was narrower, at the time I didn't know the rear ends were different lengths, but once I found out, then every time I looked at the car, you could obviously see it. I hadn't noticed it before, but you could see that the rear wheels were setting in. So I went and bought a parts car. You know, at the time, this was back in the mid 80s. And at the time, the junkyards wanted like $250 for a rear axle. And I was poor then. And so found a parts car that had steel wheels for $100 and just changed the whole thing and got a whole lot of spare parts out of it besides. But
Yeah, in acquisition recently, I got a set of hubs for the rear and front. The gentleman had changed from wires over to disc. He ended up going back, but like you said, he had aluminum plates, spacer plates, and he had 3/4 for one side and half for the other because, like you had mentioned, the rear end was off center. But I thought you could do that. That's what he had done, and I have that setup currently for sale.
That setup works. I did that on my daughter's MGB GT. Put the whole car together, went to put the wheels on and thought that's why they had those great big spring helpers on it and jacked the back end of the car way up in the air so the body wouldn't hit the wheels. So I'm not going to rebuild another rear axle. I had some spacers, 3/4 inch, two of them made and from a machine shop and used and just got longer studs and that took care of it. We got a lot of, we're already at 8 o'clock, so we're an hour in here. Let me just see what we're looking at on all the chat over on chat here. And I think I really want to get over to the chat section, but let me just call for any more little newsy things that'll help everybody out about wheels and tires.
Well, give us your take on tire age.
Right over my head.
Yeah, there's a date code on the tires.
Oh yeah, I've never looked. I don't know anything about them. Age. Oh, I thought you used the letter H. It's that accent you've got.
I don't have an accent.
I've got an accent. Yeah. Yeah, tire age. There's a date code, and it's easily seen because the federal government demands it, and you need a decoder. Although once you're onto how it works, then it's straightforward enough. But
the decoder is if it's before 2000, there's only 3 numbers. All right. So if you have tires with only 3 numbers, you need new tires.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2000. All right. We're 23 years into 2000, right? So if your tires are more than they say over 7 years old, you need new tires, but I go 10 or 20, but if you're 23 years tire age, you need new tires.
That number's in a little carouche, right? A little oval or something.
It'll say DOT, and then it'll have some other numbers and things, and then there'll be a little round oblong emblem that'll have the 4 numbers in there. So I was just looking at my MGB. It said 2213. So those tires are 10 years old. That's the 22nd week of 2013. So my tires are 10 years old. I'm still running them, but it's really time to start thinking about new tires.
You can help save your tires. So we put our cars up for the winter, and we put garbage bags over them, keep the sunlight out because they're under a carport. I don't have a garage, and that saves the tires. But I put so many miles on that I seldom go to the limit before I have to buy new tires.
Yeah, but they do say that the tires, the rubber will outgas certain materials, whatever, and they'll become hard and stiff. So even though they look great, and there's no cracks, they won't handle as well on the road. That's what I hear.
And what about lifting the car when it's not being driven for months at a time? Does anybody do that?
I do that
That's
too.
That's just for flat spots, but that was mostly for bias ply tires. But I don't think the radials really do that.
Well,
One
I
thing on
lift
the-
mine, even though they're radials, but I put the jack stands under the suspension, not under the frame, because then your car will bend ever so slightly. So I've been doing this for years, and my tires, they do okay.
I keep thinking about putting your car up for the winter, and I don't know, y'all need to come to Central Texas, and we don't do that here. We just drive it all year round.
We travel along the route in
Good
South
thing to do
Carolina.
is inflate them
Same
to
in
about 50
California.
pounds.
Yeah.
for winter. Well, we had 105 inches of snow here in Flagstaff.
Look, I agree. I'm in Houston.
We had a few inches of snow a couple of years ago, I think.
So
We only
here's
had
the-
30 inches this year. It was a great winter.
here's the hot setup. If you're gonna put your car up on jack stands, you can make a case for winter storage for doing that. I mean, lots of reasons. You can put then a pizza pan underneath each of the jack stands, and you can put a little bit of motor oil in each of those, and no mouse will ever cross that perimeter of oil and run up those jack stands and make a nest inside your car. A lot of mess. It's a lot of mess to deal with all that oil, but it's you just think about it, you go, yeah, some people even put tape on their tailpipes so the mice don't crawl up but we're not talking about winter storage.
John, we don't worry about mice. We're more concerned about rattlesnakes. Okay.
We use peppermint oil in bowls inside and outside the car, keeps the rodents away. Never had a problem with the rodents. They don't like that. And dryer sheets is another trick.
That's what the rattlesnake does.
And the rattlesnake gets rid of the mice. Yeah. All right, here, I'm gonna take off on chat for a while here, so we get this done. Again, I urge you to go to my website, universitymotorsltd.com or universitymotors.online, and find that PayPal button and press it, and that'd be real kind. Anyway, here we go. Mike, they just paved my street today, and I'm proud to say that my MG was the first to drip oil on it. So Mike, hey, here we go. It's not very woke here tonight. So Mike, see any tips for getting a generic rim for a spare tire for a midget? So it'd probably be easier to get a midget rim. MGBs, there used to be some other rims that you could get that were smaller and stuff like it's a 4.5-inch bolt pattern, but the offset has to be right too. But I don't know any spare tire that fits a midget and anything else. I just don't.
Okay. Actually, I think the midget might have the 4.5-inch pattern too.
I think it does, and it's but it's a 3/8 stud, so that it's like, it's we used to have other shops in town call us, in the middle of the day too, and say, you got any studs for one of them MGs? And you go, you working on a midget? It's real small. So yeah, they use those guns to change the tires, turn them up a little too much torque, and pow, snap those studs right off. So
I've used the temporary spares. I found out the one with the right bolt pattern and height, and I have to get a plate because of the offset. You can get it at any auto parts store, but that works really good. Then it gives me more room in my trunk too.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
Cool. So Mike, where are you from?
I'm in Massachusetts, Framingham, Massachusetts.
All right. Okay.
So Mike, if you need a spare rim, I've got some midget rims.
Oh, okay. Fred, I'll maybe I'll be in touch.
Yeah, you can get a hold of me through John.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, from Mr. Hoham, will the Dunlop aluminum wheel copies that Moss sells fit on a TD? Oh, I don't know. I don't know that at all. TDs have got a 5, out of nowhere, they've got a 5 bolt pattern. So I don't, no idea about that. Jeff Fields, I hope that everyone had a grand St. George's Day on Sunday. Remember that the Union Jack is made up of the St. Andrews and the St. George's Cross. So Jeff, are you still on? Jeff came on and left a note and left. So Renken, you can come on. On my 78 MGB, the shop manual says the rocker arm assembly, when I'm going to put that back onto my car, requires a 3,000 shim under the 2 center posts. The manual says those are required on early model MGBs, so I wasn't expecting to see them. But when I removed the rocker arm assembly from the 78B, I noticed that the 2 center posts had 1 each of those shims. My question is, do I really need them? And is it okay if they're there or not there? So are you on?
Yes, I am, John.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, those are the British Motor Trade Association, you know, a bunch of MG mechanics all sitting around, and so those came up. And so we decided that those are anti-tramping shims. That sounds really British. It puts a bend, normally the rockers have to be straight, and it must be that in some, I'm making this up, I mean, what else would be going on? That shaft begins to vibrate or something, at some RPM, some frequency, something. And by putting a bend in it, just a 3,000 bend in that shaft, it's holding it under tension and it can't rattle or move or break or spindle, full mutilate or a spindle. That's anti-tramping shims. It doesn't make one whit of difference if they're in there or not. I've seen them every way, unless you put the shim between the rear pedestal and the rear pedestal and the head, and then you don't get any oil up in there. I've seen that too. So
No, thank you. I just didn't know if I really needed them or not.
might as well put them back in. If you took them out, put them back in, but I wouldn't hunt for them. Just
Thank you.
hey, you're very welcome. Let's see, Richard, we talked about that. Marty's got some connections there to my website. Hey, my phone died today. It's so frustrating. We've all given up landlines, and then today, at about 4 o'clock, my phone quit working. Why not? Anyway, yes.
John Pittenger here again.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to spend a little more time talking with you on this carb, because I've done the things that you've already suggested. We had a phone call about a month ago.
Let me suggest that you call me, but now this is a trick suggestion because my phone doesn't work, but I expect that sometime tomorrow it will. So once you call me back and we'll just go through, because it's something you've missed. It's something on the list that you've missed, and I may have some information, more printed information about that Zenith also.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that'd be fine. I'll call you tomorrow about 1.
Yeah, and if I don't answer, it's not because I don't like it. It's either I'm busy and I'll call you back, or my phone still doesn't work.
Okay.
It's not the case.
Can I ask you one more?
Yeah, sure.
A wheel question. This 80 MGB is an LE, so it's got those alloy wheels on it.
Yes.
And as I understand, the lug nuts are kind of spatial on them. They're like a 1-inch hex or something quite large.
Yes.
And my other cars, I like to use like one of those T-handled wrenches, you know, to spin the lug nuts off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you or anybody else on the call know of a source where I could get a T-handle wrench that would fit those?
They're big. They're like 7/8, right? I can't, I'm just,
I don't remember right now, but it's the T-handle wrench I got doesn't fit them. I know that. So
how about Harbor Freight? How about taking a T-handle wrench and sitting down with a Dremel tool and opening up three of the flats on the biggest one? Let's see, what else? There's got to be some tool that you can use besides that that's just as easy. But
well, I use my half-inch ratchet. I got a set of deep well impact wrench sockets in my half-inch ratchet. You know, it fits. I've had a couple of wheels off. It's just not kind of as convenient with a ratchet.
Yep. I just don't know.
Okay.
Harbor Freight.
I'd say go to a welder. Weld up your own.
Weld a socket on there, cut off what's on there, weld a socket.
Well, you might get out of that for a pizza in a welding shop, taking pizza at lunch, cost you $20 because if you get in line, you know, it'll take days. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
We all have welders.
I don't weld, no.
So
hey, John,
somebody's right around close to you does. Yeah.
Real quick, I want to just mention one thing, just for everybody. And I read this, and I guess it's supposed to be true that when you see your tires and they look like they're starting to age, you're thinking maybe they're aged out. And you're thinking typically they're worse on the inside than they are on the outside.
Okay.
That's what I read in an article. That's why if they're just a little bit cracked on the outside, they're probably severely cracked on the inside. Just a word of caution.
Thank you. Yeah, they're after that 10-year replacement now. You hear that all the time. And then Fred said 7 years. Maybe that's the newest information. Maybe they're not selling enough tires, and they got to drop that. Steve Bryan, 60 MGA, started making a clicking sound from the transmission in first, second, third, but not fourth. Noise goes away when the clutch pedal is depressed. Okay, well, it's gearbox time. Steve, are you on?
I am, yes.
Yeah, that's gearbox time. So what that means is when the lay gear is spinning, which is when your foot's off the clutch, and you're in first, second, or third, the lay gear is working. But in fourth gear, the lay gear idles, it's spinning, but it's not carrying any motion. So something's going on with the lay gear, and that's about as far inside that car as you can get. Engine comes out, gearbox comes out, gearbox comes apart. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's first, second, and third, but not fourth. So it's the lay gear on that, absolutely. And the noise goes away when the clutch pedals are pressed. I mean, when you're running down the road, maybe at 30 miles an hour and pressing the clutch, the noise goes away, or?
That's correct.
Okay, well then it's no longer carrying motion. It's just idling. I mean, it's spinning, but it's not carrying any the energy from the engine to the rear wheels. So it just doesn't show up. It will if you wait. It's going to get worse and worse. So all kinds of stuff happens. The lay shaft wears, the outside of the lay shaft, the inside of the lay gear. The lay gear ends up sitting on an angle. You know, it's supposed to run absolutely straight with the main shaft. And over a period of time, it begins to fall because the bearings get crappy on the first gear end. And And then sometimes it puts a bias on the teeth and you can snap a tooth off one of your speed gears. And then if it falls in the bottom of the gearbox, hey, you know, it's just kind of a weird noise again. But if it gets caught up in the gears, then you stop wherever you are because it's crunch time, you know. So yeah, you got to do it. Oh my gosh. So I've got some information about how to rebuild that gearbox. If you're going to try it, you can do it yourself. Or even if you're not, so you can understand what's going on. I'll be happy to email it to you. Just send me an email afterwards. And I've got a rebuild section about MGA gearboxes. So.
Okay, and then you didn't announce, but you're in Minneapolis, May 6th and 7th?
Yes, that is correct. Not this weekend when I'm supposed to be in Timberfest, but the next weekend I'll be in Minneapolis at Mark Brandau's shop, Quality Coaches on South 32nd, someplace down there at Nicolette. And we've got a seminar going, be lots of fun. I know we're gonna put carburetors on a TC, get that fired up. So there's always fun stuff to do. Thanks for saying that.
Okay, and then a mouse story, a mouse and oil story.
Yes.
Years ago, I had a case of oil sitting on the garage floor. And you can date it because at the time, the oil was coming in a cardboard tube with metal top and bottom.
Yep.
And I walked by the case one day and I saw a puddle of oil on the garage floor. I thought, what's going on? So I started pulling can after can out of there. So I came across a can with a perfectly arched mouse hole chewed in it. All of the oil had drained out, and inside of the can, there was a drowned mouse. So
that's an excellent mouse story. That's great.
Steve, I keep telling you, get a rattlesnake. You don't have that problem.
Right. Fortunately, I choose to live in a state where the rattlesnakes are just where I go trout fishing, not where I have my MGs.
That's all right. We live in a state where rattlesnakes are politicians, okay?
Well, wait a minute. That's about every state, isn't it? Yeah, we want to avoid, there's a couple of subjects we want to avoid here, because we have to. So, all right.
You can tell a politician is lying because his lips are moving.
Yeah. There's no end to this, but we're not going to start it. Rob, to everybody, 1974 MGB, what series U-joints, yokes, and who makes the rear end? Thank you. I don't know what series that is. Rob, are you still on? I think I know what you're asking, but I've never seen this question before. Rob, are you still on about the U-joints? I don't know who made the rear end. It's called a Salisbury, a GT, or a tubed type. So Salisbury must have something to do with who made it. But the drive shaft bits and pieces, the slip joints, I've never asked a driveline specialist to put a new one on. I think they've only told me that they can't. It is not something you can buy new from a drive shaft place. But what series of U-joints? There are different U-joints. There's a little tiny U-joint in the steering gear, the U50, and then there's the one for the MGB drive shaft, MGA drive shaft, all the way back. That's like a U110 or something. And then the Healy, the MGCs, probably the V8s, and the Healys all have a considerably larger U-joint. So there must be a series of U-joints here. So but I don't know the answer to it. And he's not on. Chuck Lennick. Is John cutting out when he's speaking, or is it my connection? Am I cutting out while I'm speaking?
Not for us.
Okay, Chuck, must be that Ohio City you're in. So, We've got a couple of people that were cutting out. That's all right. Is it, here's Jeff Fields. Is it true that the US dealers were given bolt-on wire wheels to display in the showrooms, but they were not to sell, but they were not supposed to sell these? Never heard that. I never heard that before. Don't know. You can buy bolt-on wire wheels. We're the people in Ohio, Dayton Wire Wheel makes or made a bolt-on wire wheel. So you just have to get down between the spokes with your lug wrench and tighten up the nuts. It's kind of cheating, you know, and the spinners look chintzy. But Craig Fowler, John, thanks for doing this again. My 74 Roadster originally ran on bias ply tires. I don't think so. I think they were in radials then, because they went to radials about 66, because they changed the speedometer. They changed the speedometer on the dashboard in MGB from a 1050 to a 1060, because the radials were ever so slightly larger in diameter, something like that. Anyway, currently it has radial tires. Does this mean the tire pressure should be different than the quoted numbers in the manual for the original bias ply? Well, yeah, we did go through that, and most everybody runs around somewhere around 30 pounds. We heard everything from maybe 29 to 31 or something, and the back end's a little bit higher. So I call the wheels row style because the initials RO for Ruberry Owen, the people that made the wheels, capital R, capital O, style, row style. But today, when you see it, the second O has been decreased to a normal size character. But I hear everybody call them raw style too. I never tomato. I don't know. Doesn't make any difference. I always know what they're talking about. And here, this is interesting. Craig's put a note over here in chat, and longstone.com, MGB tire pressures, longstone.com, and they're making a case for different pressures for different tires. I suppose that makes sense. Right, Wayne, are you on? You're talking about your MGB engine doesn't have the tag on it.
Yes, I'm on
Okay, great. So where are you calling from?
California,
What's SLO?
San Luis Obispo.
Oh, all right, okay, all right. I didn't, okay, yep. The home of Jason Len. Yeah,
Yep.
XK's Unlimited, yep. When that was operational, yep.
It's
See,
well,
if you-
it's still operational.
I think Moss runs it now, I think.
They run the parts store, but there's a repair shop called XK Unlimited here.
All right, okay.
Original guys are still there.
Okay, cool. All right, if your MGB engine does not have a tag on it, how can you tell which engine is in the car? Mine was rebuilt by a prior owner and the tag was lost. So there's a correlation between the year of the car and the prefix on the VIN. And if you got what year is your car?
70.
70, so that's be the 18GH, maybe GK. I don't have my book in front of me. If you get the adoption information from send off to England and to Heritage and get a certificate, sometimes it has the engine number. I don't think by 1970, it usually says C engine or something, but you might be able to do that, and then you could get the actual number. Or if you want to contact me, I just on email, I'll take your VIN and I'll look in my card index and I'll give you a range that the engine probably falls between these two numbers and see what, because my late wife had a index card all real modern, an index card file, thousands of cards in it. So I can get close to your car and give you a prefix.
So do you think your engine is the original engine?
I don't know. It's just, it's been rebuilt. It runs about 135 PSI in all the cylinders.
So 135 is going to be a low compression engine.
Okay.
So it's probably a later engine, but on the below the oil filter assembly, on that side of the engine, there might be a little roundel that has a either a letter and or a number and another number. There's a decoder that you can probably find online that talks about when that engine was built. But there's a little roundel. There's also one on your head that tells you when the head was built. Okay, so there's I'm not exactly sure when they changed
It's
it.
a date code stamp.
There's a
I mean,
date
it's a
code
casting date stamp. Yeah.
But in the 70s, they went from saying like 69 in 1969 to just saying a 2 for 72. So you have to kind of interpret what that date code is. But there is information out there on the web about the date codes and how they changed. But you can contact John, and John can contact me if you want more information. If you can find that little roundel with some sort of a code on it, we can decode it for you.
Somewhere below the oil pressure or oil filter.
Yes.
Okay.
Cast into the block.
Yes. I can look.
Is that on a 57 too?
Say again?
Would that be on a 57 1500 for an MGA also?
No, the MGA is different. I'll be talking about this at the Kimber Festival, so John will hear all about it. But on the MGA, the 1500s actually had an actual date starting with a day. So, a day, then a month, and then the year. But in the 1600s, they went to a stamp underneath the oil pan. So you can't see it until you take your oil pan off.
I have the same question as the person previous, but mine's for a 57A, and I don't know if it has the original engine in it or not. And the tag is missing after the last rebuild. So I'm trying to find some way to identify.
There is on the side of the block below the oil filter, there should be a date code that's actually a real date if it's a 57.
Great, thank you.
You can
Is that
also
cast
send your
into the block? I'm sitting here looking at the Moss catalog for the MGB, and page 5 has got all these different GH for every year that it was built. The numbers that might be helpful for him, I don't know, but just something he can look at.
So, Judd,
it really doesn't help because you have to figure out what type of engine you have.
Judd, take a look at the opening paragraph in that. Who do they give credit to?
I'm looking. Probably Fred or you.
But it usually it used to say thanks to Caroline Robinson. She was my late wife. So, but sometimes maybe they got to edit for space. They drop that stuff out. I don't know. Anyway, but if you're looking for a original number on your car, you can always go to Heritage and order up the certificate and hope that the number's on the certificate. And then secondly, you've got to have a date, you've got to have a new plate stamped, and you've got to get the old rivets out. Oh boy, that's a task, especially if somebody's already broken it off. And then you got to have somebody stamp that plate out, and the guy that stamped out the plates just died. So Todd Clark, Swamp Road, Doylestown, PA, and Tom at what's Tom's business? He's around Philadelphia, Connecticut, up there someplace. Anyway, he bought all that stuff from Todd Clark's estate. So I don't know if he'll be stamping out plates or not. We'll all find out pretty soon, I bet. Mark Lead, everybody. Can you speak on end float? I have heard conflicting information. Say to have it and to say to have none. Height is possible. So Mark, are you still on, Mark Lee? So I don't believe.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, all right, okay. There we go. M float on what?
It's 71 MGB.
You want,
So
you look.
when you tighten down the castle nut on
All
the
right,
tire,
okay, all right. So I got a YouTube video on this that you can, I don't know what the number is. Marty's online. Maybe she'll figure it out and post the number. Otherwise you got to look for it. But the nut's supposed to be unbelievably tight, like 90 foot-pounds or something. I mean, it's just really, really tight. So what keeps the hub from the taper bearings from collapsing and jamming up? Well, there's shims between there's a spacer and shims between the bearing. And you want to set that up so you've got 2 to 3 thousandths end float. If you set it up in oil first and put the nut on, then you can take the rotor and you can move it in and out, and you can hear the tiniest tunk. Once it's got grease on it, you can't hear the tunk. But it should run free, the front hub should run free. But if you got too much end float, nothing real horrible is going to happen. If you have too little, it's going to burn up. Absolutely. Use red grease, number 2, lithium grease to grease the wheel bearings. And I think the shims for the front end are sold in kits. There's a 25, a 10, a 5, and a 3. And if you got wire wheels, it's like sit down and get some little hooked dental tool, kind of layout scribe things, because you're going to be pushing things in and out all afternoon to get the right end float. If you got disc wheels, it's really easy in comparison. So,
John, what's the title of that that YouTube video?
I don't know.
I've got the index. I just need to know what I'm looking for.
MGB front suspension, MGB front hub, MGB front wheel bearings, MGB front end. Yeah, that's.
Got it.
Thank you. Want to have you come over tomorrow and see if you can fix my phone. It doesn't work. I think I'll go to the Apple store at 10. So did you find it? You have a number on it?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the link, but I got the title.
Okay.
What's the title?
Let me put it in there.
Oh, and for your phone, try doing a hard reset.
It sounded 2%. There's a little picture of the battery and it comes up as 2%, and I got the charger in it and it's not moving.
My wife's iPhone did something similar. I wound up doing a hard reset on it where I got back to like the factory start menu and restarted it that way, and it came back to life.
Okay.
Just try turning it off and on again. Can sometimes fix the charging.
Flip the switch, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Use that dead blow hammer.
Yay, there we go. There we go. All right. Well, Marty's posted that up, I believe. So
thank you.
Dave, everybody. Hi, John. I have a 70 MGB Australian built. Just purchased an alloy rocker cover, which I can't fit the attachments for the steel water pipe, which was attached across the top, and the new bolts, which are longer because the alloy rocker cover is higher than the steel one. So we're talking about repositioning the water pipe, the water return. The hot water leaves the cylinder head through the valve and goes into the heater matrix, and then comes back to this water pipe. On an MGA, it was sort of jammed down and held with a clip on the intake manifold. Then later on the B, they put it across the top. It's beautiful. It's a real nice way to do that, but you're going to have to build up some of your own bolts or something to do that. The later model MGBs have a stud that comes up with a stud on top. You might be able to do that. On the other hand, you may end up having to come up with a different system because it's an aftermarket cover. Dave, are you still on? Because it's
yeah, I'm here.
All right, okay. And anyway, the only thing I can
So you can build up some, get some sort of an attachment and attach it to the intake manifold, or there's a couple of bolts available there.
You know, you're just going to have to come up with something that's attractive. You know, I mean, it's first of all, if that's a little higher, is that going to hit the underside of the bonnet? I mean,
no, it doesn't. It's only a little bit. It means that the old bolts, which I have here, they won't attach to the stud. So that type of thing.
That's because, okay, that's exactly what
they
you need.
They needed to. The new ones are a little bit longer.
All right, so here's the way out of this: get longer studs.
All right.
Okay, that'll come up a little bit higher and bite those old guys. But remember that you are increasing the height of this half an inch or so. So just make sure, you know, be real careful. But just get some longer studs. I mean, in the end, you could buy, like grade 8 5/16 bolts that are too long and that are got to be coarse on one end and fine on the other, and just make them with a die. So I mean, you can come up, you can sort this out a couple different ways. I don't know what stud, that's the tallest stud like that in the engine. There's an oil pump stud, and you call to Denver, Colorado, to Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado. They'd have oil studs that then you'd have to put in the vise and put a die on, but at least it's already half made for you. So
right. Okay.
That's what I did on my MGA, because I've got a aluminum rocker box on mine that was too tall and nothing would fit it. So either those weren't available when I did this in 1980, or because I was in the shop, I just rethreaded some studs.
Right. Okay.
John,
Thanks.
on mine, I ran the line down next to the rocker cover, and I have a loop from the plate where your choke cable goes through.
Mm-hmm.
It's held onto the manifold, and I put a strap there and run a little lower, and it seems to work okay.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds like a possibility as well. Yeah. Thanks.
Sure. Where are you?
Sydney, Australia.
Oh, you are in Australia. All right. So what's it, about 11 o'clock in the morning there? Or?
Yeah, 11:15.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, the next day.
Yeah. I've been fascinated by talking with someone from the future. So tonight's my lucky night. Okay, thanks a lot.
What's tomorrow going to be like?
Well, in Australia here, it's Anzac Day. It's called Anzac Day. It's a day we commemorate, people that our veterans. It's a big day, so it's a public holiday here.
Today's Anzac Day?
That's right.
Oh my. Yeah. Gallipoli. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Gallipoli, and France, places like that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it started. This must be the anniversary of the Battle of Gallipoli. Then that's been.
No, it's about 106 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all veterans, of all.
Oh, sure, I understand. Yeah. Yeah. So. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was a dreadful deal, that Gallipoli. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank you very, very much for coming on.
Well, thanks for your help.
And we'll see you next time too. Dean Hickenlooper from the Chicago area, 1960 MGA coupe, rear axle bearing. Do I need to press the bearing out on the inner race, attempting to replace the seal? Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. Dean, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still on.
So yes, just turn the whole hub upside down.
Right.
And put a big socket in it. Bang, bang, bang. I mean, that's it. There's no other way to get it out. And it's a nice clean fit. It's it'll pop out. Does it damage the bearing? Sure, it damages the bearing. Does it damage the bearing at all that I would ever worry about it? No. That's
okay. Thanks, John.
I mean, you know, when you put it back in, don't hit it in the middle. I mean,
no,
you know, do
I'll get a bigger socket on the outer race.
But I've got a very large chisel that I flatten the bottom of. So it's a chisel, a flat. I call it a flat chisel, and I use that for driving bearings in. You don't want to use a drift that's too small. It's going to slide off and slip in between the inner and outer race and damage the cage, you know, that holds the bearings. So
I'll just go to the really big sockets and find one.
Yeah. So
just don't force it against that lower flange near where the seal is, because you'll crush it. So support it by the outer edge.
When you're putting it back together, after you've changed the seal, you look at the seal and you go, "Is this in backwards?" So when you look into the hub and look at the seal, you should see the spring that tightens. All right. So after you change that, that's the dicier part of this. Then when you go to put the new bearing in, what Fred's talking about is supporting it in a vise, maybe on two of the studs. So you're driving against the upper part of the flange, not the little bottom. I had a guy come to me one time, and he brought both his rear hubs, and the top and bottom are supposed to be parallel, and his are just brushed because his friend put him in the press, put the bearing in it, and then didn't realize that the whole thing was bending until it was too late. So yeah, you just tap around the outside of it and just drive it in, support it on the mating flange. Yep.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Greg Fowler has put a link in from Bing, but I don't know what the link is. I'm going to skip over it. Mark Anderson, top-down restoration on my 69 MGB. Just took the tires off, dated 03/79.
Wow.
Third week of 1979. Is that
the car hadn't been driven since 1988, so the tires were fairly new when they stopped driving it, but the poor thing's been off the road for 38 years. So but they held air. They still held air.
Hey, how nice is that? Oh my gosh. Mark, where are you calling from?
Maltby, Washington, about 30 miles north of Seattle.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh my gosh. Well, you're having a good time. You get the car all done? You got it back on the road yet, or you still got tires?
Oh gosh, no, it's down to the body shell. I'm taking the body shell in next month to have it acid dipped, and then a slow recovery, and within the year I hope to have it finished.
There are some areas that you can't get to from the outside of the car that the acid will. So I'm sure when these guys acid dip it, they're also gonna wash it in baking soda and other to neutralize it and everything. But you still got these pockets in there, and it has to do with around the sills. And it makes sense to get that all undercoated in there. There's a lot of different ways you can gain access to that, and just make it drip with some sort of fluidy undercoating, that will, that'll stay there, not harden,
Like wax oil kind of thing.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I thought I'd beat the game one time with the wax oil, and I looked up on the internet how to make wax oil. And you had to take beeswax, kerosene, and like, I don't know, 30 weight oil. So I took I had a customer who was a beekeeper, and he brought me a 5-gallon pail of beeswax, which weighed very nearly nothing. And I melted that all down with all, and what a mess, what a hassle. Just if you're gonna buy it, just buy the stuff. It isn't worth trying to make it. And then how are you gonna spray it on? We had an old sprayer, but yeah, wax oil is just wonderful. There are other things like wax oil. Wax oil comes with a nice dispenser, but the whole idea is to make it really, really gooey all over the inside, so that all the metal's covered, so the air doesn't get to it, and continue the rusting that started.
Before you do the wax oil, though, Eastwood sells a inside frame kind of a anti-rust material, very thin, that you can spray. It's got a long 24-inch tube. You feed it through there, pull the sprayer out as you spray it, coat everything you can with this Eastwood frame spray, and then you can do the wax oil on top of that after it's dried, but that'll help really protect it.
And I've seen you can get your entire body e-coated, which is way beyond anything I want to do, but they dip it and they electroplate it, and like the parts you get from Moss, but that's beyond what I can do.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But again, look at Eastwood, and they have this inner frame spray that you can spray this anti-rust or rust converter essentially. And then once you've sprayed it and that dries, then put the wax oil in there.
Okay. One thing I understand is that the rust converters won't work without rust. Is that true? Like POR 15, if you paint it on bare metal, it doesn't really stick. It has to have the rust. Is that true?
They say that the rust converter needs rust. So, but I'm assuming that, well, actually, if you've got it dipped, you won't have any rust in there, but you can use a interior spray paint that will coat it.
There's also a phosphorus application, which may be what Fred's talking about. So phosphorus rusts the metal with phosphorus rather than with oxygen. And in doing so, it changes the surface of the metal, and the oxygen has a harder time getting to the metal and causing what we would normally refer to as like red looking rust. So this other stuff, this phosphate, sold under 100 trade names, OSPHO, is a rust converter and a protection. But yeah, whatever you do, just make sure you do it really well after all this work. So yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Hey, good luck. All right. Gerald Dalton, I believe you should not buy tires that are over 5 years old new. If you find exceptionally cheap tire prices, chances are they're over 5 years old, and the seller is liquidating outdated tires. That's an interesting look at this. I don't know. Everything happens, so I suppose this happens too. But that's just the he who shops by price alone is any man's prey, right? No. See,
Many of us look at the date code on a tire when we go to a reputable shop and buy it. I didn't, and I found out about 3 years into the tire that they were 6 years old when I bought the damn things.
Interesting.
Yeah, a friend of mine just bought some online and they were 2 years old already.
Interesting. So now there's something else we all have to worry about. Are the tires that we're buying, fresh? You can tell on a banana. A banana's either green or ripe or overripe. So anyway,
you have to keep in mind that everybody's trying to rip you off. Just be careful.
Yeah. All right, Craig Fowler. Someone gifted me with a rollover bar several years ago with 3 points of contact, left rear and middle. It needs to be painted, but wondering if it's worth to install it. I also have a collapsible top and I'm not sure about the clearance to fold when installed. So Craig, are you still on, Craig Fowler?
Yes, I am, John.
Okay, so anyway, no, your top won't fit with that in place. And it'll be just a horrible struggle trying to do anything in the tonneau cover and what are you gonna do? And in my whole time, 50 years of dealing with MGs, I only know of several fatalities in MGs, for as small as they are compared to everything else. And I don't know of anyone who died rolling over. On the other hand, you know, there's your head and it's going to get scrubbed off if you slide. So, but I just haven't seen that. I have seen the car, haven't seen it, literally heard about it from my customers' parents or kids or something. The cars did go upside down and no one was hurt. I don't know if it's the structure of the windscreen or what, but I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
But there may be some people on here who say, thank God I had it in my car because when I got hit, that's what saved my life. You know,
Actually, we have a local driving group here, and it was only, I think, 2 years ago that one of our drivers was in the United States driving a Miata and rolled over, and unfortunately his wife was killed in the accident. So that's what made me think twice about using it. So
yeah. Well, that will save your life. Everything else will be a problem. Fit in the top and fit in the tonneau and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, John.
I have seen some. I've seen some that cover, you know, both seats, you know, that are pretty low profile, that'll fit inside a top with 4 mounting spots. So, and I've also seen people, we had more people want them out of their car than people who wanted them in their car, you know, just so.
Yeah, I think that it's probably highly more likely that you're going to crack your head on that roll bar getting rear-ended than it's going to save you in a rollover.
And how tight do you have your 4-point seatbelt system so that you don't drop down lower than the roll bar is? I can't drive that way.
Lots of interesting comments here. So
MG's pretty sturdy car. We hit a guardrail head on going 55 miles an hour. In the passenger compartment, the car was totaled, passenger compartment was intact. Only mark we got was where the seatbelt scraped my shoulder. But I was just impressed with the car. They're very sturdy, but I've never seen one roll over. Not that it won't happen, but yeah, it's rare. They handle well enough that you may be able to get out of trouble more so than if you were driving a Ford or Chevy.
Oh boy, yeah. I'm just thinking about people people I know, two. One was 16 or 18, too young, out driving, being crazy. And the other one was running on old tires and the tires came apart, went into a slide, flipped upside down, he and his wife both in a drainage ditch alongside the expressway. It was empty because it was the middle of the summer and it was dry. So. Suzanne, I have a 1980 MGB and the fans and temperature gauge have all stopped working. Suzanne, are you still on?
I am.
So this is an unusual combination of things to fail. Does the tachometer work? Does the fuel gauge work? The turn signals work? All that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Well, they're not, I just ask because they're not on the same circuit at all. Individually, of course, the temp gauge fails eventually because there's a temperature sending unit inside the cylinder head. It's just plugged onto with a wire. You can buy a new one, GTR 101.
The problem is that the current setup is how I bought it. It is not, it's very aftermarket. It was rigged. The temperature
Oh.
sensor is coming out of the top of the thermostat housing, which was the CAM 1577. And it is a temperature sensor that has a two-pronged setup so that one wire is going to the fans, the other wire is going up into the temperature gauge in the cab. And so instead of having the ERP set up and running into the side of the engine block. And I like the way it's set up because it kills two birds with one stone. It's just that I cannot find a new temperature sensor. And I was wondering if you had any experience with anybody else has seen this setup before.
I have not.
Oh, darn. Oh, God.
Sorry. I mean, you can hot wire the fans, so that they run. If they run all the time, it's running too much, but at least temporarily so you can drive it. But no, the only system I'm used to is the ERP switch and
Gotcha.
Is there any sort of a part number on the side of the switch?
That's the thing. There is nothing. There is absolutely nothing.
Here's an idea. Take a picture of it and put it up on MG Experience, or maybe you're going to say you already have. But because that's got so many people from all over the place that I mean, there'll be a lot of chatter about it. You'll have to read through a bunch of messages, and you'll have to separate the wheat from the chaff. But
sure,
somebody may have seen this before. Somebody says, "Oh yeah, that's off of Ford Bronco." I mean, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. It could be anywhere. And
Yeah.
Magnifying glass, I have really looked it over and I cannot find any number, any code, anything at all.
No,
So MG Experience?
Yeah.
mgexperience.net.
.net, okay.
Sure,
I thought I'd mention just quickly, and I don't think it'll be any help. A couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I was looking at somebody had an MGB for sale. It was an older one. And anyways, I went and looked at it and decided against it. It was cheap, but I couldn't find a single body panel that was either straight or didn't have rust or bangs in it. And when I opened up the hood and I looked underneath, I saw a setup similar to that. It might not have been exactly the same, but I saw there were wires, there was some sort of external temperature sender attached to the radiator. And I just thought that somebody jury rigged the thing and was yet another reason to stay away from it. Sounds like in your case, it works okay, or you're comfortable with it, but I have no idea where they got that. So at least
Gotcha.
I can say I've seen something similar, but that probably won't help.
Well, no, hey, it's really nice to hear that. Thank you. It's just it's been running this whole time for several years now, and just not having to mess with the ERP and with the side of the block and do two separate things. I thought it may be rigged, but I thought, gosh, it's kind of nice. I'll kind of go with it. But if not, John, what should I go back to the ERP and to the other one and have them separate, or?
Yeah. I mean, there's a green wire, the blue tracer that comes down and it's supposed to attach to the sensor and the side of the cylinder head. And then you got the ERP 1127 switch in the radiator.
Right.
And you want to get an ERP seal from a Jag. I can't remember the part number. Which has got a longer, and it tends to pop out less. Now that's just a little tiny half a quarter of a postage stamp size bimetal plate that flicks one way or the other when it gets hot.
Okay.
And it carries all the current that runs the original fan motors, and the fan motors carry more current than anything else in the car except the starter motor. They're wonderfully powerful fans, but that little tiny ERP switch isn't up for it. So if you wanted to put a relay in line with that switch, man, that's the place to put it. You can mount it right next to the radiator. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can attach to. I mean, to hold the relay and find the ground for it. So.
Okay. Yes, I think you have a video on that. And there are also, I've got two fans, the two small that are in front of the radiator, and then the one behind the radiator pulling. So I'd have to hook them
That's
both.
odd. That's odd because it's unless the fan is within quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. I mean, its effect is decreases dramatically the farther it gets away from the radiator. So if it's a white fan that sticks out on an aluminum extension, that's left over from an air conditioning setup from so many years ago. But if it's just a fan attached to the water pump, it doesn't do anything. So
I think he misunderstood you.
Yeah.
The
If
fans.
I may say something.
yeah,
that
hey,
solution-
Rodolfo.
Yeah, hello, how are you?
Hey, so tonight we've got Mexico and Australia. So great.
Yeah, this is kind of weird because that solution seems, well, I've seen it. I guess I've seen it, but you know, that's a good old Mexican ingenious solution for problems.
Yeah.
So, that definitely sounds kind of that stuff. You need to find 40-year plus Mexican mechanic and he will get it right away.
Well, okay, that's an option too for Suzanne. Yeah. Yeah. So
John,
yes.
I would say take that switch and go to your local auto parts store.
Okay.
And when they're not real busy, and
Right.
find a guy with gray hair
Right.
or no hair, and show him that switch, and he's got a catalog of a paper catalog, huge things.
Yeah.
You'll have temperature senders in there, and he can look and find one that looks like yours.
Yeah, so far I've been to several places and nobody can identify it yet. So,
Well, that was my suggestion.
yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I went to an older gentleman, the second store, and boy, he tried. He was very patient. He was very nice, very knowledgeable, and boy, did he try, but haven't found it yet. So I may be going back to the Europe and the side. And so we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much.
Suzanne, a lot of those a lot of those electric fans that go behind the radiator or in front of the radiator have a separate little wand that goes through the core of the radiator and has a relay on it and energizes that. So you might be able to replace that all of those sensors that you have with a modern style thermal sensor that goes into the core of the radiator.
That's an interesting thought.
And
Okay.
most of those aftermarket ones have that type of setup.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Okay, thank you.
Oh, and then call the other couple of MG shops around, Glenn's MG service in St. Petersburg and Ian at Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado. And just don't, they're trying to make money. Don't chew up too much of their time, but just see if they've ever seen it before or put a pic, take a picture of it. The picture's worth 1,000 words.
Okay.
And circulate it. So, well, what a bunch of great ideas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John, real quick.
Yeah, George.
The later MGBs, the electric fans are negative and positive. If you wire them backwards, they will run in reverse.
How'd you find that out, George?
I had a friend who was overheating and he wanted me to look and see what was wrong. And I found it. It wasn't on my car, but it was on a friend's car.
Okay, both of them going the wrong way?
Only one.
Yeah, so when you're idling, the air is just going around like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. Sandy to everybody, check the diaphragm and the carb for stiffness. Even new ones can be way too stiff. That will limit the movement. So this is back to Richard Pittenger, and Sandy's just suggesting here that just change the diaphragm, just change it, just to make sure, because that piston should rise and fall without the piston in the top, without the damper in the top, that should rise and fall.
I've already tried 3, John.
All right. Okay. So here's jacked, everybody. Tire size for an MGA radial tire. 165/70/15.
No,
160.
165/80.
Well,
165/80.
okay, all right, okay. I'll go with you. How about 70? Why don't we agree on 75?
Too low
165,
profile.
165/80, 15. So, okay. All right, Michael G. My driver's side front brake line is super tight on one side when the wheel is turned all the way. Wrong. Oh my gosh. And what happens when the car's, what happens when you're in a bounce and a turn? But not on the passenger side. I was told it is how the steering is connected. Is there a video available for this connection for 72 MGB GT? So Michael G, are you on yet? We're gosh, it's 9:09
Yes,
already.
sir.
Okay. I mean, first of all, if you put a tape measure against those lines, I
Yes,
can't-
they're equal. It's just when I turn the wheel full clock one way and full clock the other, it's super tight on the, it's just stretched to the max. I mean, it's,
we can't, no, that's so wrong. So buy the later brake hose. Just buy the later brake hoses, first of all,
Okay.
for 74.5 through 80. They're
okay.
that
I
much
did.
longer.
I did. I just didn't want to do all that for nothing and find out they're still tight and it was some other kind of.
I can't, I mean, when you're turning the wheels, the front wheels, they should turn the same amount back and forth. I mean, you can put a 2x, in your garage, you can put, slide a 2x4 up next to the wheel and just draw a V, and then you've got a V in the center line, and you can tell right away if that's an issue. I can't imagine how that could be. Maybe I'm missing something, but I've never heard of this, and it's really dangerous. What's going on with your car? So
I think it was some advice from the MG experience. They were throwing out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, is that a possibility? Sure. But I just never heard of it. I just can't imagine how that would work. So
I would just wonder, did somebody replace the calipers recently? I wonder if it was twisted and as the caliper went on.
Well,
rather
I'll
than
look at
having
that
it twisted.
again. I there was mention of looking at the bracket where the line goes, but that's so rigid that's
Yeah.
not bad. But
no, it makes an S, comes down, goes into the top of the caliper.
okay.
Doesn't go.
I mean,
in the
it's so tight that when it's stretched, John,
No,
it
you're
slows
making me don't do this. You're making me uncomfortable.
yeah,
Listen,
it slows the car down.
Yeah, it's not safe. The brakes
Well,
are the most.
I'm not driving it right now, so
Okay.
I had after the 150, 60 inches of snow, it's been up on blocks and I've been working on it. So
Where are you, Buffalo?
no, I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay,
Yeah, we had an unusual winter.
I guess.
But
Have you checked your rack and pinion to make sure everything is centered?
no,
And that your tie rod ends are equal?
no,
I'm
thinking that's what the suggestion was.
Just can't believe that would do it. But if you follow that 2x4 and make the V, with a chalk line on your garage floor, if your wife will let you or something, that'll tell you.
I got to go find a wife first. Okay.
Okay.
No, I
All
don't.
right.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks, John.
Hey, thank you. So, and here we go. So we're now down to Marty. Here's the guide to deciphering mystery sounds. Oh yeah, that's my article about zizzes, clunks, rattles, and ticks. So we're sitting at 9:12. I'm gonna make another pitch. Thank you for hanging on. We're down to 100. I think Doug, are you on? What did we hit tonight?
Oh, yes, John. Hi. 176.
Okay, all right. 176. So we were over 200 that one time when I had a guest on. I should invite another guest on. So that's more exciting than listening to me. So what hat did you bring tonight?
I brought something I bought in England. It was either in 1985 or 1988 at a men's store. I think you know, remember the Dunn and Company? You remember that men's clothier?
Yeah, sure.
Here's the you can see.
Yeah.
There is Dunn and Company. It's a bowler. It's my bowler. So if I want to audition for a remake of the Avengers, all I need is to get the next M Appeal, and I think they drove a Lotus. I think I forget what car John Steed drove, but anyway, it's a genuine bowler, John. So it's a good one. It's lasted for almost 40 years now, I think. So
very nice, very nice. My original hats came from Dunn and Company. So anyway, so this is the hat contest here, and I'll go back and we'll answer a couple more. So here's my hat. You see what that says?
The state police or something like that?
United States Secret Service, dude.
Okay.
United States Secret Service. Yeah, that's this was offered to me by a guy who he was a Secret Service agent, and he had a TD. So yeah.
Oh, great. That's good.
Yep, I don't wear it out in public. I'm just asking for trouble. I love the bowler. So we'll have to see what Doug and I can come up with next week for our hat contest.
Have hat will travel.
Hey, I'm gonna answer some more of the chat here tonight. Usually Doug and I wrap it up, but let's see. Oh, Rodolfo, greetings from Mexico. I was trying to learn something in the process. Oh, you're getting a 61 MGA from Texas, Rodolfo. You still on?
That's the idea.
Oh my gosh! So you're oh my gosh! Well, that'll be one of the very few MGAs in Monterey. Oh my gosh!
As far as I know, there are like 3 here in Monterrey.
Okay.
So yes, that's the idea that I'm trying to complete the process. It's a kind of messy, all the importation.
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
I was driving, and right now I actually with my MGB here. You have never seen it, right?
Not up close. I've seen it as a backdrop. Yep.
Yeah, it's it's here on the garage. So
yeah,
this is my little one.
It's very, very nice. You loaned that to the dealer, you said, and drove a modern electric MG or something for a month?
Yes. Actually, I got it back 2 weeks ago, and they had it in an MG agency, dealer, sorry, about a month, and they are asking me for another in another dealership. So it really attracts customers. So that's the idea.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool indeed.
Greetings to everybody.
Hey, greetings to you. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to move on here from Monterey to Van Andrews. Stuff, mgb-stuff.org.uk, block date. Here's Fred's thing about looking at interpreting the number codes on the castings. mgb-stuff.org.uk. You know, that sounds like a really fun site. Plus Chris Landry, Clark Spares is closed down. Yes, that's because Todd passed away, yes. And no wonder I didn't receive my plate, but I think Tom, British Miles, bought a lot of that stuff from Todd's estate. So I'm not sure what's going on. David Halliday, hey, hello. John, my MGA has a rebuilt 3-bearing 1800, 200 miles on it. Oil pressure gauge goes up to 40 and just sits there. Wrong. It doesn't change with revs, just sits at 40 until the engine is turned off. Does this sound like a bad gauge, or could it be the flexible line breaking down on the inside? Well, it's not. David, are you on yet?
I am, John. Yeah.
Hey, you waited a long time. All right.
That's right. Yeah, good. Thank you. Good to see you.
So anyway, what that MGA gauge has a piece of plastic. I'm sure there's a cooler British word to use for it, but it's a plastic on the inside that diffuses the light that comes down from the outside. And sometimes that'll curl and the needle comes up and hits it, you know? So the first thing to do is look at the gauge itself and see if that might be happening. It's not the line. It's not the line. So that leaves something wrong with the rebuild.
Yeah, the engine, the oil pressure was fine. And it's just the last time I drove it, I noticed the gauge was just sitting on 40. Before that, it had been going up to sort of about 75 or something, and dropped down to 55 idle. And
I bet it's that plastic then. But
so on the face gauge, is it, John?
Yeah. It's a real bugger to get, you know, if you want to pull that gauge out of the dash, you can pull it out this far, you know, sort of tugging at the lines and try to do whatever you're going to do to it there, is taking it all the way out. Oh my gosh, you know, that capillary tube that goes up to the cylinder head.
That's right, yeah.
That Suzanne needs, you know, to be able to tell what temperature her engine is. It's just such a, and then the chrome cover doesn't want to come off the gauge because that's the rubber and everything in there is 500 years old. And so you use a little screwdriver and you work and finally get that out. And then the lens is stuck to another piece of rubber. So you go underneath that with a real sharp blade, and of course you crack or chip the glass. So you got to get another piece of glass made or something or other. Then you get inside, and then get inside, and you can get that little piece of plastic. I've dealt with that before, so obviously.
So that should be fairly obvious in looking at the gauge from the outside.
Yeah.
I'll go and have a close look at that, because I spoke to a mechanic friend of mine, and he suggested it might be the oil pressure relief valve sticking, but I wouldn't have thought so really if the engine was running.
That's where I went. Until you said that all of a sudden it started acting up. But that oil pressure relief valve, if there's dirt that's inside the engine, shouldn't be, of course, but if there is, it moves right from the oil pump to the oil pressure relief valve long before the filter.
Yep.
And a piece of junk can get caught underneath there. And taking it out's easy schmeezy, just easy. Inch socket, unscrew it, out, valve stuck in the engine, hit the starter motor, comes out with a flood of oil, but comes out, and then you can fool around with it and clean it, or look at it, whatever, get it clean, and then make sure you got 2 shims in there. I use 1/4-inch helical lock washers. It has to have 1 shim. Must have 1 shim, but I always put 2 in. But it sounds like your oil pressure before was like really good, so maybe you don't need that. But now the problem comes that you've got to put it back in. Everything else has just been easy. You cannot. I can't. I mean, I wouldn't be able to now, and it was very difficult when my hands were like really strong when I was working to press that cap onto there and turn it and get the thread to bite against all that spring pressure. That is a bugger. It's a bugger. So what I did, I put the spring in my left hand, the nut in my right hand, and I put the nut up. It started. I backed it off, and I put it up again, you know, and I learned by feel where it caught, where the threads caught. And then without moving my hand on the nut, you put the spring in, push it in, and you got one, maybe two attempts before your wrist fails to press it in and turn it. As long as it catches, you're home free.
Yep.
And then walk it in. So
Can he put an external oil pressure gauge somewhere on the motor, like where the pressure sensor is?
Oh, absolutely.
And first off, find out, do I really have a problem?
Exactly. No, I could do that. Yeah.
And if you got compressed air with a blowgun, you can take the line off the engine and put the blowgun into it and have somebody watch the gauge and see what it pops up to when you're hitting it with 100 pounds of air. So yeah,
absolutely.
You always do the cheapest, easiest stuff first, and the valve is much difficult as I described, is probably easier than fixing the little piece of plastic.
Yes,
It's dicey. You just have to sit in the car and work in the car. It's not. On the other hand, putting that valve in is a real bugger too. So anyway,
I guess on the positive side, as long as I got at least 40 psi, it's
that's not enough.
Okay.
That's not enough. You want must be over 50, and better to be up around 75.
Not like my Healy that drops down to about 25 at idle then.
Well, it doesn't matter what it is at idle. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? As long as when you hit the gas, you hit the throttle, the oil pressure pops right up to whatever the blow off is, you know, which is controlled by the oil pressure relief valve. So as long as you hit it and it pops right up to 70 and stays there, hey, doesn't matter if it's idling 15 on a hot day. I mean, what's it? Where are you? Where are you flying from?
I'm currently in Australia. Heading back to the UK in a few weeks' time for the MG100 celebrations, but currently in Australia, Melbourne, Australia.
But it gets what, 34, 36 degrees there sometimes where you are?
Yeah, occasionally into the low 40s, but not that often, but yeah.
Yeah, so it gets really, really hot. You know, those days, you know, when you're ticking over 800 RPM, or you've got to have your foot on the throttle to keep it, you know, keep the engine running when it's so hot. The oil pressure can go right in the toilet and it just make any difference at all, as long as it pops right up. So.
Sure. Yep. No, thank you for that. There's a couple of good things. So yeah, appreciate that.
Okay. And Marty Bradley has put in here that was number 18. My 18th video is setting up the front hubs. So she's also got some other ones on there. Craig Fowler, the Bing link was a picture of the date code on a tire. Okay. We're walking through here. We got comments. We're right down. We're 83 people are still hanging on here. Thank you. We got the new Avengers. The new Avengers. Craig says the new Avengers series features the MGB in a TR7. So, and Marty's got some stuff in there yet. Well, anyway, so we're down to it. It's 9:26 p.m. and I appreciate everyone who's come on and stayed on. Oh my gosh, we're down to 80, well, 78 people are starting to leave. So anyway, it's time to say good night. I'm gonna unmute. You can unmute yourself. We can have a little chat here at the end. It's always nice to see everybody and
I just wanted to show my MGB.
Yeah.
Looking good, Rodolfo.
That's really cool. That's really nice.
Thanks a lot.
Beautiful.
Thanks a lot. It really cost me about 2 years and a half to finish it. And I declare it as restored.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else on it.
If you're gonna drive it, you're gonna fix it.
Well, yeah, for sure. But I mean, in order to restore it to original.
No, that's a lot of work. I appreciate that. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's well. I really put a lot of effort here. But
the
NGA is coming, so time for another baby.
Yes.
See
Okay.
you guys. Thanks a lot.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Greg Glasser, I see you on tonight. That's nice. Nice to see you. So, yep, Greg and I go back to what, 1980. I mean,
80, right?
long time ago. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Yeah, when you're,
right.
Good, John.
yeah. I have one question for you, John.
Yeah.
The August, your picnic thing.
Yes. Yeah. I'm still struggling with the hotel to get a fixed price on the, it's just taking forever.
I'm just looking, you've got 2 dates, right? Saturday, Sunday?
Friday's,
Or Saturday, yeah.
well, yeah, but it's, yeah, the real event will be Friday, Saturday, Friday night in the parking lot, Saturday, have a little dinner. It's a reunion. It's not gonna be
Okay.
voting on cars. It's not
I
gonna be.
understand, but so I should plan on being there Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Okay.
So I'll wait for the hotel info.
All right. Okay. Hey, everyone, thank you very much.
Hey, John, I wanted to show you, my
Oh.
friend sent us a sign.
Garage.
It says-
Just, I have to go to a different view.
It says Cook's Garage. We fix anything except stupid.
Okay, nice.
They found a sign. I don't know where they got it from, but it's kind of, I thought it was humorous.
Very, very cool.
John,
Yeah.
you going to Kimberfest?
No, I'm not. I'm attending my son's graduation from college.
That's
17
good.
years in the coming. So it's a family always takes precedence, and family takes precedence this coming weekend. Yeah.
Is that an indoor event? I've never been.
Yes. Yep, they'll have 6 presenters. Fred's one of them. Fred Horner is on tonight. I have 6 presenters, and they all talk about something in extreme detail. So more information than you ever even thought existed. So
That's downtown Philadelphia, I think.
you know, Fred, are you still on?
Yeah, it's down by the airport.
Oh, is it the
Oh, okay.
Simeon Museum?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Okay. So
Good night,
then,
thank you.
good night. Good night, all. One and all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you very much.